Welcome to another episode of the Waffle Shop podcast. Today, I'm joined by my new favorite pop punk duo, Travis Mills and Nick Gross from Girlfriends. Welcome to the Waffle Shop.
Well, thanks for having us, man. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say.
You guys are hectic at the minute. Like, there's a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time to come for a waffle with me.
Yeah. Are you just dropping it off at my door? Like, should I be expecting somebody?
Joe, every day, Call and the Gang did this to me as well, and I feel like sometimes I can't sleep at night out of knowing that I've disappointed Call and the Gang.
No,
Do you know how difficult
fine.
that is? But to be fair, like I start each one of my shows with something called the weekly waffle, which is something that is quite minor, quite petty, that gets on my nerves. But hopefully, when I speak to my incredible guests about it, it makes me feel better. And obviously, feel free to get involved. But something that has been bothering me, and to fair, for 30 years, it's been bothering me. And I feel like this is something that you guys can appreciate. You know, you've spent a bit of time in the UK recently, and it's the British weather. It's like it looks like a beautiful day outside, and so you're there in your shorts, like you're ready to go. You walk outside, and you've got icicles hanging from your nose.
We just got back from Europe, and that was the story of our lives. I mean, I think we had one day of sun in the whole 2.5 week tour, and let me tell you, we cherished every minute of it. And spoiled because growing up in Southern California, it's like every day is perfect.
Yeah.
So it definitely made it tough, for sure.
I mean, we're saying this as, Nick's there basking in the sunshine.
Nick's sunbathing right now.
So yeah, thank you for rubbing it
I'm a lizard, man. I'm a true life lizard.
I don't, because that's how rumors start. Is there anything that gets on like your guys' nerves that you'd quite like to get off your chest today?
Man, that's a good question. Traffic sucks, but I feel like now it's like a very first world problem,
Yeah, it's true.
I'm not a huge complainer, so I don't know. I think life's pretty good, man. If there's a problem, fix it.
Love that. I love that positive attitude.
Complain, Yeah.
But if you can fix the weather, that would be perfect. That would mean it'll stop me moaning. So
yeah,
great.
or like maybe you know what you need? Maybe you need a better weatherman.
That is true. Do you know what? I feel like I'm going to come to you with every one of my life's problems now. It's fixed within minutes.
I bill hourly.
Perfect. Just send me the invoice. It'll be sound.
There you go.
Now, obviously, you guys are, hitting the music scene once again. I want to kind of dive back a little bit in terms of kind of how this musical journey started. Like I've had people on the show that have said like they've heard certain songs or they watched someone perform live or they heard music, growing up that inspired their music journey. Like how did that start for you both?
Oh man, I remember my earliest memory of me wanting to be a musician was I was in a car with my parents and my cousin, and a Nirvana song was on the radio, and I looked at my cousin and I was like, I want to do that, and she was like, do what? And I was like, that. And I think I just kind of stumbled my way through life, trying to learn how to be in a band. I don't think you really ever do, but starting bands with my friends, playing talent shows in 6th grade, and just being really bad at playing music over and over and over again. But I don't know what drew me to it, but it did, and I just kind of never stopped, if that makes sense.
No, I love that. I love how music does this to people. Like, regardless of like what age you are or where you are, like it captures those moments and those memories.
100%.
Nick, what about you? How did your music journey start?
It started through piano lessons when I was 5 years old. I was an only child, so was really lucky enough to have parents that supported me in music and just wanted me to try different things. And piano naturally evolved into me wanting to hit things as a 6-year-old boy. And so got the drum kit and it just came natural to me. Like the first, time I sat on the drums, everything kind of fell into place. And I just picked it up kind of really easily. So always felt really lucky to kind of have that as a young person, and started my first band when I was like, 10 years old. And for some of my first albums that I was really inspired by was like, Everclear. So Much for the Afterglow. That was a huge album for me. Just
Yeah.
listening to the beats and stuff like that was just like, same with Travis. It was like, I want to do that. That's like the coolest feeling ever. Like hearing that sound of the drums on that record for whatever reason, just kind of like resonated with me. And
Yeah.
um, that grew into me being a huge Blink 182 fan as a kid and looking up to different drummers, like Travis Barker, and even drummers like, Carter Buford from Dave Matthews Band, and just the difference between those two drummers. I just listened to a lot of stuff, like played along to a lot of different kinds of records, and um, was just inspired by the drums, man, and through music as a young kid. And thankfully, it just came natural to me. And so I think that's a big piece for every young person to find that thing that kind of like resonates with them and comes natural as far as the talent goes, and um, see where that leads you in your life.
This is what I love about having music guests on, because everyone's journey into music is like so varied, but it always starts with that natural feeling of like, okay, I like what I'm hearing, like I want to do that. I kind of want to, obviously, with girlfriends now, like, exploding. Obviously, people know you, Travis, obviously from your incredible, like, obviously, Apple Music show, and then obviously Help I'm in a Secret Relationship. And then obviously, Nick, with Find Your Grind, it's, it's very, very kind of like eclectic what you guys do. How does it feel now to be kind of coming back to kind of like your musical roots?
Yeah, I mean, I think music is at the center of everything that we do, right? Like I wouldn't have an MTV show if I wasn't a solo artist for the last,
Yeah.
since I was 19. I wouldn't have a relationship with Apple Music, if I hadn't been a musician beforehand. Zane Lowe used to spin my solo records when he was at Radio One, and that's how
Yeah.
me and him had a relationship. And so, when he came over to Apple, we had already kind of been chatting, and so everything stems from music, at the end of the day. And I think that's just like the one thing that you can't really replicate the feeling of. Like,
Yeah.
I can wake up and go film a TV show, and it's really cool, and it's something that I'll never take for granted. It's something that I'm like still like, wow, this is crazy that I get to do this. But it does not compare to the feeling of walking off stage after performing. Like there's nothing that you can do to feel that way. And I think that's what's so special about it.
That was a brilliant answer. Love that. And Zane Lowe's an absolute legend.
Legend.
Like I
Yeah.
could listen to him. He could literally just recite the alphabet and I would just sit there and listen to it on repeat.
100%. And he's someone too that like really like took me under his wing and like was like a mentor when I started my journey as a host, and really like told me like, yo, you have a unique you have a unique aspect of this, because not
Yeah.
everyone is an artist. So like you get a chance to connect with people on a different level. And fortunately, I've been able to use that to my benefit. And I feel like that's why, most of my guests are my friends or people that I've kind of brushed shoulders with in the scene. And it leads to some really interesting conversations from a perspective that I feel like not everyone can have.
No, again, it's absolutely brilliant. And I love this about, especially when I have a music guest on, because it's that kind of, I get that a lot of the feelings of kind of it being a form of therapy, or like being kind of like what you needed like when you were younger. Nick, obviously with the incredible platform that like you've created, is there an element of like, inspiring like the younger generation to, discover music, to kind of, be the best version of themselves and give them the best kind of like tools to succeed?
I mean, I think definitely at our core, we're not necessarily directing everyone to discover a music career or things of that nature. But what we're trying to do with Find Your Grind is really just build a solution for students and schools around America to kind of shake up the system a bit of what they're traditionally taught and what they learn about, which often doesn't come down to themselves a lot, you know, like there's not a lot of time for self-discovery and thinking about your future and the things that resonate with you and the talents you have and the careers that potentially interest you that you could be really great at, and not really having the exposure or understanding of what's available to you, that how fast the world has changed, all these kind of conversations that don't typically happen within, you know, like a 6 hour or 5 hour school day, right? Because kids are, you know, you're trying to get students to pass, you know, core things around English and history and science and all these things that at the end of the day don't really matter a lot. So for me, it was about like creating something that um, could really help, you know, kids start to align with their futures and think about things in a different way with Find Your Grind, and building a software and a technology that can really help guide them to those answers and to those things. So yeah, it's been fun, man. But definitely, like, we have a lot of music careers and a lot of different, you know, people that represent the music industry on Find Your Grind as potential pathways to explore. But it's been cool, man. It's like I definitely think with Find Your Grind, it's been something for me where I'm like, what did I not get in high school? Like, what's the stuff that I wish I learned about? Like, what are the real life skills and things that are important today that kids aren't getting enough of? And let's layer that in with all the cool possibilities for what careers look like today versus 10 years ago.
No, brilliant. Is there like a moment where, like, especially when, like you said, Travis, about stepping out on stage, like there's no better feeling. Is there moments of like fear? Because obviously we talk about like mental health a lot on the show, and like getting at the benefits of like getting out of your comfort zone. When they're like, you know, that kind of fear or that like that voice of negativity or doubt kind of creeps in, like how do you guys navigate that? Or is it a thing with you?
Here we go. We were just talking about this on the road, like that, 5 minutes before you walk on stage. That's like the truest test of really who you are, because you have every feeling going on inside of you at once, right? And it's this rush of adrenaline. It's, your heartbeat is racing, and you're kind of just walking out into the unknown of like anything can happen. There's a lot of people out there. I hope I don't mess up. But that's kind of combated with, I've done this a million times. I'm here for a reason. Let's go and, give these people the best show. And I get to do this. Like, no one else gets to do this. I get to go and do this. This is like what I've been preparing my whole life for. And, as soon as you get out there, for the most part, all of that thought kind of melts away, and you exist in this place of like not thinking, and it's meditative, and it's cathartic, and it's really cool. But like those minutes before you walk on are some of my favorite minutes ever, because it really like shows you who you are. There's some people might not go out there, and they might be like, I can't do this, and some people might not feel anything, and that's kind of sad. But yeah, I mean, I kind of cherish that, and I love feeling like, oh man, anything can happen.
No, I love it. Do you think, like, because I mean, I've had musical guests on in the past who've kind of said kind of similar things to yourself, but especially listening to kind of like the new music, there's an element, like I'm guessing, like there's a lot of stuff like you kind of like getting off your chest with kind of like music, how in my eyes having quite a close link to like therapy. With the lyrics and stuff like that, do you kind of have to put yourself in a headspace, or when you are writing these kind of like these anthems, like is it therapeutic for you guys to get the the thoughts out of your head, the feelings onto paper, and then to have them like sang back to like thousands of people? Like how do you kind of I think like actually like
Sure.
three questions in one then.
No, I think if anything, it's like it's affirming. It's like
Yeah.
you get to see that these ideas that you've had in your head, the things that you've kind of poured out of yourselves in a room, thousands of miles away in a different country on a different continent, has resonated with people that might not even speak the same language.
Yeah.
Like that's like, fuck, I don't know anything that's more powerful than that, and it's like, okay, so like, yeah, we should probably keep doing this because it's working.
Definitely. Has there been any moments where it's kind of taken you aback to be like, oh, we created this, from a like maybe like a painful experience, like a good experience, then having it sang back to you? Like, has there been any kind of like shows or moments where you've like, oh God, okay, that was a moment?
Yeah, there's a moment in our show every single night before we play a song called "Where Were You," and it's just about like, I mean, when Nick and I started this band, we were riding high, we had all of these great ideas, and then the world changed, for everyone as we know it in the blink of an eye, and we
Yeah.
all had plans to like go and do things, and obviously that kind of got shut down. But instead of sitting there and you know reeling in the negativity of it all and the anxiety, like we locked ourselves in a studio, and that gave us time to make music and inform who we were as a band and make a record that we got to walk out of that situation with a body of work and an ability to go and tour and play shows and have a fan base, and we got to help people along the way. So it's like, and I think that's kind of like the ethos of who Nick and I are as people, right? It's like you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. So it's like taking the hands that we get in life and using them to the best of our ability and like our advantage, and what can we make out of this. And I think that's what music is too. It's people walking into a room where nothing exists and walking out with something tangible. It's like, what
Yeah.
can we come here and make with this? And I think we've both been able to apply that to like every kind of area of our lives.
That's absolutely brilliant. And to be fair, it's very similar kind of core values to what the podcast stands for as well. It's kind of like walking into a situation, walking out with something that like you must feel proud like of like what you have created.
Yeah, for sure. I think the competitive side of both Nick and I don't want to speak for Nick, but it's also like, well, what else? Like, what else can we do? Like if
Yeah.
we've done this, like I'm always like, we're always kind of thinking the next step ahead. Like, how do we, how do we make the show better? How do we make the songs better? How do we connect with more people? Um, because also like you look around and you see a lot of like, I guess, inauthenticity, right? Like people who are only there for certain reasons. Like Nick and I grew up in this. Like I feel like are encyclopedias of the scene, right? And it's like something that we take very seriously. And I think that yeah, music now, certain aspects of it have been like a little watered down and stuff like that. And so we just kind of want to bring the stuff that we grew up on
Yeah.
back.
Do you know what? It's really interesting you say that because when I was listening to obviously the brilliant new EP Over My Dead Body out Friday the 12th of May, um, I felt nostalgic. I felt like I was back like when I didn't have a care in the world. Like I didn't know about bills. I didn't know, and I was literally just there, just me and the music, just kind of like rocking out. Like hearing those songs, like I mean, to be fair, you've kind of answered that question already. Like that's kind of like the music that you grew up around. Like how fun was it going into this feeling like, okay, that's what I want to create? Now having that body of work, like, are you excited to get out there and like play these songs live?
Yeah, I don't think that that's like when Travis and I first got in a room together in early 2020. We kind of tell this story a lot, but it wasn't like we set out with a goal to recreate or create this certain style of music
Yeah.
because that's what we grew up on. And, we wanted to latch on to this resurgence of what was going on in like pop punk alternative music. But it wasn't any of that. It was like we literally just got into a room. I sat on the drum kit. Travis started writing stuff. Feldy picked up a guitar, and that's kind of how it sounded. You know what I mean? It's like every time we get into a
Magic.
room, that's just like what it is, which is I think speaks to the authenticity of it for sure. I think if Travis and I tried to go in and like force some other type of genre, some other type of like creative energy around it, it would just wouldn't feel as
Yeah.
authentic. So anytime we get into a room, it kind of is what it is, I guess is my point. Which I think speaks a bit to who Travis and I and like the energy we've carried with us of just growing up with the things that we've liked and our influences that we have and all of that. But not to say in 2026 when we get into a recording studio that songs might change and things might feel different, because at that time they definitely could. But yeah.
I like it. How do you guys stay authentic? Because obviously it's a big word to be like, authentic. And obviously if people are not being authentic, you can kind of like you can almost smell it when someone's not being like their true self. Like, how do you guys stay authentic?
I don't know. You can't fake the funk, dude. You either walk the walk or you talk the talk, and I feel like time will tell.
Brilliant. I feel like that was the soundbite there.
Yeah. I mean, if I sit and talk to you about like records that we grew up listening to, and you have no idea what you're talking about, it's gonna be like, oh damn, okay, so like, yeah, you
Yeah.
really don't know what the hell you're talking about. I see that all the time too, with like people artists that I talk to on my show, and I'll be like, dude, this music, man, like, it reminds me of this, this R&B record from the 90s that I was,
Yeah.
and they're like, what are you talking, like, I don't know who that is. And then I'm like, all right, that just tells me that you had like 20 people in the studio writing who were like, yo, we should interpolate this, we should flip this because this song was huge 20 years ago. And now I'm like, I'm over it.
Yeah. To be fair though, speaking of that, I need to read this out because one of the lyrics with this has been stuck with me ever since I heard Over My Dead Body. And I don't know why, it just makes me want to scream it every time I hear it. And it's one day we could reunite, maybe somewhere over my dead body, baby. Honestly, the amount of times, like, even if it's like past relationships or, when people get back in touch and you're just like, yeah, like, oh, that sounds good. But you have no, like, kind of intention of going there. And it's that kind of like feeling of just like, it doesn't feel right to me. I mean, I could be interpreting like this wrong, but it's just like, why do you not just say, nope, it doesn't suit me. It doesn't like align with me anymore. Like, and I don't know why. It's stuck with me ever since I heard it because it just makes me want to shout for some reason.
I love that song because I feel like it's like a sassy nursery rhyme.
Definitely a sassy song.
It's like there's something that's so familiar about it too, like the composition of it and like the way that like the words are structured, that it's like, on the surface it's like really sweet, but it's like there's just like this bite underneath it. And
Yeah.
I think the whole EP is pretty, kind of reminiscent of that. And I think that's, something that it's like a perspective that I like to write from a lot, just because I mean, everyone has those past relationships where
Yeah.
you feel, it's like when you get in an argument with someone and when it's over, you think of everything that
Yes.
that's what this EP feels like to me.
I really feel that, to be fair. And one of the questions I've got to ask is, Brittany, what did she do? Who did she hurt? Which one?
What didn't she do?
Travis's past relationship with Britney Spears went really wrong.
Oh, damn. That's how rumors. Wait, is that true? That's some like Waffle Shop exclusive.
It might be. Well, we'll leave it lingering at that.
Oh, tease it. To be fair, speaking of like kind of pop royalty, you've just been on tour around Europe with Avril Lavigne. Like, how did that like come about? Like that call must have been like, I mean, to be fair, Travis, obviously you mentioned like obviously you've got a lot of kind of like friends in the industry, but like she is a legend at what she does.
Yeah, she's for sure an icon. I mean, Nick and I, what's crazy is we texted about like 3 years ago, like, yo, do you think Avril would, we could ever tour with her? Like, I really want to tour with Avril. And when we got the call, it almost didn't feel real until we were like in Paris, like on show one, walking on stage, and then it still didn't feel real, and then we just did it over and over again. It was pretty surreal, right?
Yeah,
it looked like
really
a party from start to finish.
Yeah, it really was. It was a pretty surreal experience for sure.
She just texted me too. I woke up to a text from Avril. It was a video, so I'm scared to open it while we're on this, but
I didn't get that. Dude, what the hell?
Oh, don't come on and start beefing.
What the hell, Travis? How come I didn't get the video, man?
Oh, man.
No, you'll have a sassy song written about you now on the next EP. We'd be speaking about like being on the tour and stuff. Obviously, you're back in the UK at the end of May. You're headlining shows, in Camden, Slam Dunk Festival. Like, what can we expect from a Girlfriend's show?
I think what's cool about this for us is we get to play obviously more songs on these UK headliners than we did on the Avril tour. We were direct support for Av, and that was awesome. But now we get a chance to like play even more music, which is great. And really build the set out. But we've never played over there. So you tell us, what should we expect from the UK?
Well, to be fair, we're rowdy. We're a rowdy lot.
Perfect.
Like I think there's a reason why some of the UK festivals are the best in the world. I mean, I've got scars from festivals, and I just love getting there and like for like 3 days or however long you're there, or even just a gig, like for that hour where you're not caring about anything else other than the music, your friends, like there's just something beautiful about live music. But yeah, we're wild. So if you're bringing the party, like the energy will be for sure matched.
Music to our ears, no pun intended.
It's amazing.
Okay. So when I have a musical guest on, I like to ask 3 questions. Now, feel free to be as honest as you like, but I feel like when you guys are like on tour or even at a party, I can't imagine it takes a lot to get you on the dance floor. But if there was to be a song to get you guys on the dance floor, what would it be?
Man, I mean that's a no-brainer. I would probably say Fisher losing it.
Banger. I remember
Yeah,
being
we
in
I will say,
Amsterdam watching
we
him.
did a lot of Fisher.
I'm not a dancing guy, but yeah, we do have Fisher backstage, and I'll start shaking to that song.
Oh,
He will.
that
True
sounds like it's
story.
out of
True
control.
story.
On the flip side of that, obviously, I like to talk about like the moments and like the music that have soundtracked kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly for me. When it comes to kind of like the feels, like, is there a song or an album that when you hear, it kind of takes you back to like, you know, that kind of sad place, or, it brings the emotion out? Like, what would that be?
Mm. Um, I'll say a song by a band called Brand New. The song's called Jesus Christ.
Okay.
It's very like it's melodramatic. It's very like you get lost in a song like that. Yeah, that's like one from I feel like my earlier days when I was like a teenager, just like really like kind of going through it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that, and then I mean something that reminds me of like Europe and the UK, and I was listening to a lot on this tour, is by King Cruel, and the song called Easy Easy.
I just compile songs for my playlists when I have
There you
these
go.
conversations. What about you, Nick? What puts you in the feels?
I mean, I think anything like probably from like Third Eye Blind, there's a lot of music from them probably that would bring me back to like some 90s melancholy shit, Dashboard Confessional,
Yeah.
things of that nature. A lot of music like that.
Very nice. Final question for you both. If there was a song that you would kind of just like to put in a box and maybe push into the ocean, or maybe just never hear it ever again, what song would it be?
Mm.
Probably Can You Take Me Higher by Creed.
Hmm. You
They're
know
here
what's crazy
tonight.
is I met him at your studio, Nick, and he was the sweetest guy ever.
Dude, I know. I'm kind of just kidding with that. I mean, where would the world be without that song? There's so
He
many.
talked to Scott talked to me about my truck for like 45 minutes.
Scott's a good man. He's a good man, and I didn't mean it.
Nick, I feel like you woke up today and chose anger. When you come on here and starting beef with your bandmate.
Um, Dude, I really don't know. I don't, like I said, like we started this off with like, what grinds my gears. And I think I would just turn it off. I don't know if I would go
Yeah.
through all the trouble of packing it in a box and setting it out to sea. There's a
It's
lot of
literally
bad
like
songs. I hear them every fucking day. I just change it to something I like.
it's true. It's true. It's the beauty of like Apple Music and Spotify and other platforms where people listen to the music. You guys have been an absolute diamond. To be fair, I'm saying this, I've got one final question. Obviously, we talk about kind of like mental health and like music, like on the show a hell of a lot. I kind of want to kind of ask you guys if there is anyone out there who kind of is having a bit of a tough time at the moment, like what advice would you give to them to kind of just to give them that little bit of a pep in their step, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I say this on stage all the time, but if you're out there and you're struggling, if you feel like life isn't going to get any better, I can assure you, as someone who's struggled with this since, I was a teenager. I'm 34 now. That, the days do get better, life gets easier, and the world is a much better place with you here than without you. And I feel like that message really comes through in some of our music. And I definitely, it's one of my favorite things about being able to go on tour and play shows, so I can connect with people who feel that way, and let them know that, there's better things coming in life,
Yeah.
and nothing is linear, and you're not doomed to kind of repeat yourself. But you have to be the one to make a change, right? Nothing changes unless you do. So yeah, that's what I'll leave you with.
Beautiful. Nick, any final
Yeah.
words?
I mean, in terms of that, I guess more in a literal sense, I'd probably say just find ways to release serotonin. You know what I mean? Like, so much of it comes down to your mental state. So whether it's working out, supplements, positive things, just to get like your head and your mindset in a better place to start thinking more positive thoughts. Naturally, like, the positive thinking will attract positive things into your life. And I think the positive thinking starts from, like, you know, literally like releasing serotonin in your head. So find ways to get up and get active. And, I think that's a great place to start, at least from like a mental health perspective.
Beautiful. And listen to Girlfriends, because that has been the serotonin literally blasting through the studio today. So guys, literally, thank you so much for joining me for Waffle, and best of luck with the EP and the UK tour. I hope they're wild now. I feel like I've just let the UK down.
Well, thanks for having us, man. Appreciate you, Taylor.
Anytime. Best of luck with everything, and I will speak to you very soon.